A blood-curdling scream echoed through the cosmos as the Nausicaans' flagship unleashed a planet-shattering beam of death, reducing the Mazarian homeworld to ash. Kaid, a young Mazarian diplomat, watched helplessly from his escape pod as his civilization crumbled before his eyes. With trembling hands, he activated the pod's emergency beacon, broadcasting a desperate plea for help into the uncaring void of space. "This is Kaid of the Mazarian people," he whispered hoarsely, his voice barely audible over the static. "Our world is lost. The Nausicaans have conquered us. We beg for mercy, for salvation. Is anyone out there? Can anyone hear us?" Light years away in the bustling command center of Earth's Defense Force, Commander Chris Bailey leaned forward in his chair, his eyes widening as he intercepted the faint distress call. The raw emotion in Kaid's voice, the utter despair and hopelessness, sent a chill down his spine. He knew he had to act. He had to do something. Humanity couldn't stand idly by while an entire race was exterminated. Bailey burst into the council chambers, his face flushed with determination as he faced Earth's leaders. "We have to help them," he urged, his voice ringing with conviction. "The Mazarians are being slaughtered. We can't turn a blind eye to this." But the council hesitated, their eyes downcast and their voices low. They feared the repercussions of entangling Earth in an interstellar war. They argued that it wasn't their fight, that they had to protect their own. Undeterred, Bailey stormed out of the chambers, a fire burning in his eyes. He gathered a group of like-minded soldiers and scientists, men and women who believed in the cause, who couldn't stand by and watch as innocent lives were snuffed out. Among them was Dr. Lena Sorensen, a brilliant xenolinguist who had deciphered Kaid's message and confirmed the urgency of the situation. Together, they hatched a plan, a covert mission, a daring rescue. They would steal an experimental warp-capable cruiser and set course for Mazarian space. Consequences be damned. As they emerged from the wormhole, the horrors of the Nausicaans' conquest unfolded before their eyes. Smoldering ruins of once great cities stretched out beneath them, the remnants of a civilization brought to its knees. Kaid, monitoring for any response to his distress call, detected the human ship and guided them to a hidden rebel base on the planet's surface. And there, amid the rubble and the despair, an alliance was forged. Human and Mazarian, united against a common foe. The fight for survival had begun. In the heart of the Mazarian rebel base, Commander Bailey stood before a holographic display, his eyes locked on the ethereal image of Princess Zara. Her regal bearing and piercing gaze commanded respect, even as her world lay in ruins. Kaid stepped forward, his voice steady as he introduced the human commander to the last hope of the Mazarian people. "Princess Zara, this is Commander Chris Bailey of Earth's Defense Force. He and his team have come to aid us in our fight against the Nausicaans." Kaid's words carried a weight of gratitude and desperation. Zara's eyes met Bailey's, a flicker of hope sparking within them. "Commander Bailey, your arrival is a beacon in our darkest hour. The Nausicaans have ravaged our civilization, but they haven't broken our spirit. We possess vital intelligence on their military operations, information that could turn the tide of this war. In exchange for your help in liberating my people, I offer you this knowledge." Bailey nodded solemnly, the gravity of the moment settling upon his shoulders. "Princess Zara, we stand with the Mazarian people. Your fight is now our fight. Together, we will strike at the heart of the Nausicaans' war machine and bring an end to their tyranny." As the alliance between human and Mazarian solidified, Bailey wasted no time in putting their newfound intelligence to use. He summoned Lieutenant Jake Hawkins, a seasoned special operations officer, and tasked him with a critical mission: infiltrate and sabotage a key Nausicaan supply depot. Hawkins and his hand-picked squad, armed with cutting-edge human weaponry and cloaking technology, slipped past enemy lines like ghosts in the night. They moved with precision and purpose, their every step guided by the intel provided by Princess Zara. As they closed in on the supply depot, the anticipation of the impending strike thrummed through their veins. Under the cover of darkness, Hawkins and his team breached the depot's defenses, their cloaked figures blending seamlessly with the shadows. They planted explosives at strategic points, targeting the Nausicaans' stockpiles of weapons and provisions. With a series of deafening blasts, the depot erupted into a fiery inferno, the shock waves reverberating through the night sky. As the flames consumed the Nausicaans' precious resources, Hawkins and his squad vanished into the chaos, leaving behind a crippling blow to the enemy's war effort. The sabotage of the supply depot was a resounding success, a testament to the deadly efficiency of human special forces. Back at the rebel base, Dr. Lena Sorensen huddled over a console, her brow furrowed in concentration as she pored over the data collected from the Nausicaans' doomsday weapon. Alongside a team of Mazarian scientists, she worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of the devastating device. The weapon is powered by zirconium, a rare mineral found only on a single, heavily guarded asteroid, Dr. Sorensen reported, her voice tight with urgency. If we can disrupt the Nausicaans' supply of zirconium, we can neutralize their most potent threat. Bailey's mind raced, formulating a daring plan. We'll hijack a Nausicaans freighter and use it to infiltrate the asteroid undetected. It's a risky operation, but it's our best chance to strike at the heart of their doomsday weapon. As the human and Mazarian forces prepared for the audacious heist, light years away, on Earth, a new ally emerged. Admiral Nathaniel Graves, a seasoned veteran of countless battles, assumed command of the Earth Defense Force's interstellar fleet. Convinced of the necessity of joining the fight against the Nausicaans, Graves rallied Earth's leaders behind the cause. The Nausicaans' aggression knows no bounds, Graves declared, his voice resonating through the halls of power. If we do not stand with the Mazarians now, we may one day find ourselves facing the same fate. We must assemble our most advanced warships and technology and lend our strength to Commander Bailey's efforts. Earth's leaders, swayed by Graves's impassioned plea, authorized the deployment of a formidable task force to reinforce the human-Mazarian alliance. The stage was set for a showdown that would determine the fate of countless worlds. But even as hope blossomed in the hearts of the resistance, a new threat loomed on the horizon. The Nausicaans' emperor, Valkor, his ire stoked by the success of the Mazarian rebels and their human allies, dispatched his most ruthless enforcer to crush the uprising. General Karag, a cunning strategist with a heart as black as the void of space, set his sights on the Mazarian resistance, determined to shatter their unity and drive. Whispers of dissent began to circulate among the Mazarian ranks, the seeds of discord sown by Karag's machinations. Long-standing rivalries between clans, once set aside in the face of a common enemy, reared their ugly heads once more. The specter of betrayal hung heavy in the air, threatening to unravel the fragile alliance. Amid the growing turmoil, Bailey and Princess Zara worked tirelessly to maintain the cohesion of the resistance. They delved deep into the fractured politics of the Mazarian people, seeking to understand the root of the division that threatened to tear them apart. It was then that they stumbled upon a terrifying revelation. The Nausicaans are secretly backing Zorax, a dissident Mazarian warlord, Keed revealed, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. They're using him to divide the resistance, to weaken us from within. Bailey's teeth gritted, a fire igniting in his eyes. We won't let them succeed. We'll confront Zorax and expose his treachery. The Mazarian people will see the truth, and they will stand united against the Nausicaans. In a tense confrontation, Bailey and Keed faced down Zorax, their evidence of his collusion with the Nausicaans laid bare for all to see. The warlord's supporters, faced with the irrefutable truth of his betrayal, turned their backs on him, their loyalty to the Mazarian cause reaffirmed. With the resistance united once more and the Nausicaans' schemes thwarted, the final preparations for the assault on the Zirconium asteroid began in earnest. Human and Mazarian forces, their spirits bolstered by their shared purpose, readied themselves for the battle that would decide the fate of their worlds. Bailey stood at the precipice of destiny, the weight of countless lives resting on his shoulders. He knew that the road ahead would be fraught with peril, that the Nausicaans would not relinquish their grip on power easily. But he also knew that the strength of the human-Mazarian alliance, forged in the fires of adversity, would be the key to victory. As the first ships of the Allied fleet lifted off from the rebel base, their engines roaring with perseverance, Bailey looked to the stars, to the future that hung in the balance. The assault on the Zirconium asteroid was about to begin, and with it, the hope of a free and just galaxy. The stolen Nausicaan freighter sliced through the void, its hull vibrating with the low hum of cloaking technology. Inside the cramped cargo hold, Commander Bailey and Princess Zara huddled with their strike team, reviewing the mission parameters one last time. "Remember, absolute silence once we breach the asteroid's perimeter," Bailey whispered, his eyes scanning the faces of his human and Mazarian operatives. "Our stealth tech will mask us from their sensors, but one wrong move and we're exposed." Zara nodded, her fingers tightening around the hilt of her energy blade. "My people have suffered long enough under Nausicaan tyranny. Today, we strike back." The freighter shuddered as it touched down on the asteroid's surface. Bailey held his breath, counting the seconds as they waited for any sign of detection. When none came, he exhaled slowly and gave the signal to move out. The team split into two groups. Lieutenant Hawkins led his sabotage unit towards the lower levels, while Bailey, Zara, and Dr. Sorensen made their way to the main control room. Hawkins and his team crept through dimly lit corridors, planting explosive charges at key structural points. The acrid smell of sulfur and ozone permeated the air, a byproduct of the zirconium refinement process. As they rounded a corner, Hawkins froze. A group of haggard aliens shuffled past, their eyes downcast and their bodies bearing the marks of hard labor. One of them, a tall, gaunt figure with iridescent skin, caught Hawkins's eye. You're not Nausicaan," the alien whispered, his voice barely audible. Hawkins hesitated for a moment before responding. "We're here to shut this place down. Who are you?" "I am Raxus, a Zalarian engineer," the alien replied, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "The Nausicaans force us to work here, developing new methods to refine zirconium." Hawkins' blood ran cold. "How close are they to a breakthrough?" Raxus' expression darkened. "Too close. If they succeed, their production of the doomsday weapon will increase tenfold." Without hesitation, Hawkins made a decision. "We're getting you out of here. All of you. Can you help us plant these charges?" Raxus nodded, a fierce dedication settling over his features. "It would be my pleasure." Meanwhile, in the control room, Bailey, Zara, and Dr. Sorensen pored over holographic displays, their faces bathed in the eerie blue glow of Nausicaan technology. "This is worse than we thought," Dr. Sorensen muttered, her fingers flying over the alien interface. "They've already amassed enough refined zirconium to power dozens of doomsday weapons." Bailey leaned in, his eyes narrowing as he studied a series of shipping manifests. "And they're moving it. Look at these coordinates. There's a hidden research facility deep in Nausicaan space." Zara's face paled. "We may already be too late." The facility's alarms blared to life, cutting off any further discussion. Bailey's comm crackled with Hawkins's urgent voice. "Sir, we've been made. General Karag's flagship just entered orbit. They're deploying troops to the surface." Bailey cursed under his breath. "Grab what data you can and let's move. We need to get back to that freighter." The corridors erupted into chaos as Nausicaan soldiers poured in, their energy weapons scorching the walls. Bailey and his team fought their way through, every step a desperate struggle against overwhelming odds. They rendezvoused with Hawkins' group near the landing bay, the freed slaves huddled behind them. Raxus stepped forward, his eyes meeting Bailey's. "Commander, the charges are set, but someone needs to stay behind to detonate them manually," Raxus said, his voice steady despite the gravity of his words. "I volunteer." Bailey opened his mouth to protest, but Raxus cut him off. "My people, my fellow slaves, they need a chance at freedom. Let me give them that chance." With a heavy heart, Bailey nodded. "Your sacrifice won't be forgotten, Raxus." As the stolen freighter lifted off, Bailey watched through the view screen as the asteroid facility erupted into a brilliant fireball. The ship shook as shockwaves buffeted its hull, but the pilot, a skilled Mazarian rebel, navigated them safely into open space. In the cargo hold, now crowded with freed slaves, Bailey addressed his team. "We've dealt the Nausicaans a significant blow, but our work is far from finished. That hidden research facility is our next target." Dr. Sorensen held up a data crystal, her eyes gleaming with commitment. "With the intel we gathered, we might just have a chance of finding it. As the freighter jumped to warp, leaving the destroyed asteroid behind, Bailey knew that the true test still lay ahead. The Nausicaans would be on high alert now, and infiltrating their home territory would push the human-Mazarian alliance to its limits. But as he looked around at the faces of his team, human, Mazarian, and now a diverse group of former slaves, Bailey felt a surge of hope. Together, they had achieved the impossible, and together, they would see this fight through to the end. The stolen Nausicaan freighter emerged from warp, its hull creaking under the strain of prolonged high-speed travel. Commander Bailey stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the swirling mass of asteroids that filled the view screen. "Sensors are picking up heavy Nausicaan activity," Lieutenant Hawkins reported, his voice low. "Patrols everywhere. They're on high alert." Bailey nodded, his eyes hardened. "As expected, activate the cloaking device and begin our approach. We have one shot at this." The freighter shimmered and vanished from view as it glided into the dense asteroid field. Tension hung thick in the air as the pilot navigated through the treacherous maze of floating rocks, each near miss eliciting a collective intake of breath from the crew. After what felt like hours, a massive structure came into view, nestled deep within the heart of the asteroid field. The secret Nausicaan research facility loomed before them, its sharp angles and ominous silhouette a stark contrast to the natural formation surrounding it. "This is it," Bailey announced, turning to face his team. "You all know the plan. Hawkins, you'll lead the demolition team. Plant those charges and be ready to detonate on my signal. Princess Zara and I will head for the data vault with Dr. Sorensen. Remember, stealth is key. We're outnumbered and deep in enemy territory. Let's move." The joint human-alien strike team deployed from the freighter, their suits equipped with the latest in human cloaking technology. They moved like ghosts across the facility's outer hull, finding an access point and slipping inside undetected. Once within, the team split. Hawkins led his group towards the facility's power core, while Bailey, Zara, and Dr. Sorensen made their way to the central data vault. The corridors were a maze of alien technology, pulsing with an eerie blue light. Dr. Sorensen's eyes darted from console to console, her mind racing to decipher the Nausicaan systems. "This way," she whispered, gesturing towards a heavily reinforced door. "That has to be the main vault." Bailey nodded to Zara, who stepped forward and began working on the lock. Her fingers danced across the alien interface with practiced ease, a testament to her years of resistance against Nausicaan oppression. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a cavernous room filled with holographic displays and data terminals. Dr. Sorensen rushed to the nearest console, her hands flying over the controls as she began extracting the vital intelligence. "My God," she breathed, her eyes wide. "The destructive potential of this weapon, it's beyond anything we imagined." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, bathing the room in a crimson glow. Bailey's comm crackled to life. "Commander!" Hawkins's voice came through, punctuated by the sound of energy weapons. "We've been made! Nausicaan forces are converging on our position." "Hold them off as long as you can," Bailey ordered. "We need more time to get this data." The sounds of battle echoed through the corridors as Hawkins and his team engaged the Nausicaan security forces. Bailey and Zara took up defensive positions at the vault's entrance, their weapons at the ready. "Bailey!" Dr. Sorensen called out. "I've got it! The full schematics and capabilities of the Doomsday weapon." As they prepared to make their escape, a bone-chilling roar reverberated through the facility. General Karag's voice boomed over the intercom system, promising a swift and merciless end to the intruders. Bailey's mind raced. They needed to get to Hawkins and his team, but the corridors between them were likely swarming with Nausicaan troops. He was about to give the order to push through when a massive explosion rocked the facility. "Hawkins, report!" Bailey barked into his comm. Static filled the channel for a heart-stopping moment before Hawkins's voice came through, strained and breathless. "We're pinned down, sir. Had to detonate one of the charges early to clear an escape route, but we're cut off from the extraction point." Bailey made a split-second decision. "Hold your position. We're coming to you." As they moved to leave the vault, a squad of Nausicaan soldiers burst through a side entrance. In the ensuing firefight, Princess Zara was separated from the group. Bailey watched in horror as she was overwhelmed and dragged away by the enemy forces. "Zara!" he shouted, but it was too late. She was gone and they were out of time. With the facility crumbling around them and Nausicaan forces closing in from all sides, Bailey led what remained of his team on a desperate race through the chaos. They fought their way to Hawkins' position, the air thick with energy blasts and the acrid smell of burning metal. As they regrouped, Bailey's mind was already formulating a new plan. They had the data, but without Zara, their mission was far from complete. He knew what had to be done. "Change of plans," he announced, his voice steady despite the dire circumstances. "We're going after the princess. Hawkins, set the remaining charges on a timer. We're taking the fight to Karag's flagship." The team's eyes widened at the audacity of the plan, but there was no hesitation. They had come too far to turn back now. As they made their way to the facility's hangar bay, commandeering a Nausicaan shuttle, Bailey's thoughts were focused on the challenges that lay ahead. The recovery of the weapon schematics was a crucial victory, but rescuing Zara and escaping Nausicaan space would push them to their limits. The shuttle lifted off, weaving through the asteroid field as explosions blossomed behind them, the research facility disappearing in a ball of fire. Ahead loomed the imposing silhouette of General Karag's flagship, their next battlefield in this high-stakes war for the future of the cosmos. The stolen Nausicaan shuttle streaked through space, its hull groaning under the strain of maximum acceleration. Commander Bailey gripped the tactical console, his eyes fixed on the looming silhouette of General Karag's flagship. "Incoming transmission," Hawkins announced, his voice tight. "It's Admiral Graves." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of the Coalition fleet's commander. "Bailey, we've received your data on the Nausicaan superweapon. Well done. Now I need you for something bigger." Bailey's eyebrows rose. "Sir?" "We're taking the fight to the Nausicaan throne world. Your team's intel on their defensive systems is the key. Rendezvous with the Coalition Armada at these coordinates." As the transmission ended, Dr. Sorensen's eyes widened. "The throne world? That's suicide." Bailey's teeth gritted in a grim line. "It's our best shot at ending this war and rescuing Zara. Plot a course. Maximum warp." The shuttle's engines flared, catapulting them into the swirling vortex of hyperspace. Hours later, they emerged to a staggering sight. Hundreds of ships from Earth and a dozen allied species, assembled in tight formation. Bailey's team transferred to the Coalition flagship, where they found themselves thrust into the heart of a frenetic war room. Admiral Graves stood before a massive holographic display of the Nausicaan homeworld, its surface jam-packed with defense platforms. "We've identified a weakness in their orbital grid," Graves explained, gesturing to a pulsing red sector. "Bailey, your ship will lead the vanguard. Punch a hole in their defenses so we can deploy ground forces." The plan unfolded with brutal efficiency. Bailey's ship, newly christened the CSS Raxus in honor of their fallen Zalarian ally, spearheaded the assault. Energy beams lanced through space, carving a path through the Nausicaan blockade. On the bridge, alarms blared as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. "Shields at 30%, an ensign shouted. "Hold steady," Bailey commanded, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. "Prepare to deploy the strike team." The CSS Raxus plunged through the atmosphere, plasma trails erupting from its hull. As they neared the surface, Bailey turned to Hawkins. "You know what to do. Take out those ion cannons." Hawkins nodded, his face set with dedication as he led his team to the deployment bay. Moments later, the strike force repelled from the hovering ship, landing amidst the chaos of Nausicaan anti-aircraft fire. They fought their way through the streets, energy weapons blazing as they targeted the massive ion cannons that threatened the incoming Coalition fleet. In orbit, Admiral Graves watched as the planetary defenses flickered and died. "All ships, commence landing operations. Establish a beachhead and push towards the capital." Coalition dropships streamed towards the surface, disgorging waves of troops and armored vehicles. The Nausicaan capital erupted into a war zone, the sky filled with crisscrossing energy beams and the thunder of orbital bombardments. Deep within his fortified command bunker, General Karag snarled at the holographic battle map. "Deploy the seismic disruptors. Let them feel the wrath of Nausicaa beneath their feet. The ground began to shake violently, massive fissures opening in the streets. Coalition tanks toppled into newly formed chasms, and entire squads were swallowed by the shifting earth. "Sir," a panicked voice crackled over Bailey's comm, "we're losing ground fast. These tremors are tearing us apart." Bailey's mind raced, searching for a solution. Suddenly, his comm chirped with an incoming transmission. The voice on the other end made his heart skip a beat. "Bailey? It's Zara. I've escaped Karag's custody with some help from Hawkins. We're in the central control hub, and I think we can shut down these seismic weapons. But we need time." Hope surged through Bailey's veins. "Understood, Princess. We'll buy you all the time we can. Just hurry." As Zara and Hawkins worked frantically to disable the seismic network, Bailey rallied the coalition forces. They fought with renewed vigor, clawing back territory block by blood-soaked block. In the control hub, Zara's fingers flew across alien interfaces. "Almost there," she muttered, sweat beading on her brow. "Just one more firewall." A triumphant beep echoed through the chamber. The ground stilled and a collective cheer rose from the coalition ranks. "Seismic weapons neutralized," Zara reported, her voice thick with exhaustion. "But Bailey, there's more. Emperor Valkor, he's gone mad. He's activated some kind of doomsday device in the palace sublevels. If we don't stop him, he'll destroy everything, his own people included." Bailey's blood ran cold. He knew what had to be done. "Hawkins, get Zara to safety. I'm heading for the palace. It's time to end this." As Bailey led a small, elite team towards the Imperial stronghold, the battle for the Nausicaan throne world raged on. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, with the clock ticking down to annihilation. The battle for the Nausicaan throne world raged on, but Commander Bailey's attention was focused solely on the looming Imperial palace. As he led his elite team through the war-torn streets, the ground trembled beneath their feet, aftershocks from the neutralized seismic weapons. "Status report," Bailey barked into his comm. Lieutenant Hawkins's voice crackled through, strained but determined. "Sir, we've secured the control hub. Princess Zara is safe, but we've got a new problem. Emperor Valkor has activated some kind of doomsday device in the palace sublevels." Bailey's eyebrows furrowed. "Understood. We're en route to the palace now. Stand by for further orders." As they approached the towering structure, a deafening explosion rocked the area. The palace's eastern wing crumbled, sending plumes of dust and debris into the air. Bailey and his team ducked behind a fallen statue for cover. "New plan," Bailey announced, his eyes scanning the chaos. "We need to find a way into those sublevels. Dr. Sorensen, any ideas?" The scientist's fingers flew across her datapad. "There should be maintenance tunnels leading to the lower levels. If we can access them, we might be able to bypass the main defenses." Bailey nodded. "Let's move." They fought their way through pockets of Nausicaan resistance, energy weapons sizzling through the air. As they reached the palace perimeter, a familiar voice rang out over the comm. "Bailey, it's Admiral Graves. We've lost contact with your team. What's your status?" "We're at the palace, sir," Bailey replied, ducking behind a pillar as energy bolts whizzed past. "Emperor Valkor has activated some kind of doomsday device. We're going in to stop him." There was a moment of static before Graves responded. "Negative, Commander. We need you to fall back immediately. That's an order." Bailey hesitated, his eyes meeting those of his team. They all knew what was at stake. "I'm sorry, sir," Bailey said, his voice firm. "But we can't walk away from this. If that device goes off, everything we've fought for will be lost. We're going in." With that, Bailey cut the comm link. He turned to his team, their faces set with unyielding commitment. "This is it," he said. "Let's finish this." They found the maintenance access and descended into the bowels of the palace. The air grew thick and humid as they navigated the labyrinthine tunnels. Distant explosions reverberated through the walls, a constant reminder of the battle raging above. As they neared the sublevel where the doomsday device was housed, Bailey's comm crackled to life once more. "Commander," Hawkins's voice came through, urgent and breathless. "We've got a situation up here. Coalition forces are falling back. Admiral Graves is pulling out." Bailey's heart sank. They were on their own now. Understood, Lieutenant. Get Princess Zara to safety. We'll handle things down here. The team pressed on, finally reaching a massive blast door. Dr. Sorensen worked quickly to bypass the security protocols while the others took up defensive positions. With a hiss of hydraulics, the door slid open. Beyond lay a cavernous chamber dominated by a pulsing orb of energy, the Doomsday device. And there, hunched over a control panel, was Emperor Valcor himself. The Nausicaan ruler spun to face them, his eyes wild with madness. "You're too late," he snarled. "The device is primed. In moments, it will cleanse this world of your taint." Bailey raised his weapon. "It's over, Valcor. Stand down." The Emperor's laugh was hollow and bitter. "Stand down? No, human. This is where it all ends." Valcor lunged for the control panel. Bailey fired, but the energy bolt went wide. Time seemed to slow as the Nausicaaan's clawed hand reached for the activation switch. In that moment, Bailey knew their mission, their war, and the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. The next few seconds would determine everything. Bailey's finger squeezed the trigger, but Valcor was faster. The Emperor's clawed hand slammed down on the activation switch, and the Doomsday device thrummed to life. Arcs of energy crackled across its surface, building to a catastrophic crescendo. "No!" Bailey shouted, lunging forward. But before the device could detonate, the chamber shook violently. The ceiling cracked, raining debris onto the floor. Bailey stumbled, nearly losing his footing as the tremors intensified. "What's happening?" Dr. Sorensen yelled over the din. A holographic display flickered to life, showing the planet's surface. Massive fissures were spreading across continents, entire cities collapsing into newly formed chasms. Valcor's laughter echoed through the chamber. "Fools! You think I'd let you take my world? If I can't have it, no one will." Realization dawned on Bailey. This wasn't the Doomsday device. It was something far worse. His comm crackled to life. "Bailey!" Admiral Graves's voice was urgent. "Volkar's detonated antimatter warheads in the planet's core. The entire surface is breaking apart." Bailey grabbed Valcor, pinning him against the wall. "How do we stop it?" The Emperor sneered. "You can't. Zorgatus Prime is finished." The room lurched again, more violently this time. Bailey released Valcor, turning to his team. "We need to evacuate. Now!" They raced through collapsing tunnels, dodging falling debris. Above ground, chaos reigned. Coalition dropships struggled to take off as the earth split beneath them. Soldiers from both sides scrambled for safety, former enemies now united in the desperate fight for survival. Bailey's comm chirped. "Commander!" It was Hawkins. "Our LZ is gone. We're cut off." "Hold position," Bailey ordered. "We're coming to you." They fought their way through the crumbling city, leaping over widening chasms and ducking under collapsing buildings. The air was thick with dust and the screams of the dying. They found Hawkins and his team pinned down near the ruins of a massive hive city. Princess Zara was with them, her royal garments torn and stained with ash. "We need to get to higher ground," Bailey shouted over the rumbling earth. "The surface is breaking up faster than we can run." Dr. Sorensen pointed to a towering spire, still standing amidst the devastation. "There, if we can reach the top, we might be able to signal for extraction." They made a mad dash for the spire, carrying wounded soldiers and dodging chunks of falling debris. As they climbed, Bailey caught glimpses of the battle still raging in orbit. The sky was filled with explosions as coalition ships clashed with swarms of Nausicaan drones. Halfway up the spire, Zara gasped, "Look!" In the distance, a massive Nausicaan war machine rose from the rubble. Its insectoid legs crushed buildings as it lumbered forward, energy weapons blazing. "Volker," Bailey growled. "He's making his last stand." They reached the top of the spire, the wind whipping around them as they surveyed the apocalyptic landscape. Entire continents were splitting apart, oceans rushing in to fill the gaps. Bailey activated his emergency beacon, praying it would cut through the interference. "This is Commander Bailey to any coalition ships. We need immediate evac. The planet is breaking apart." For long, agonizing moments, there was only static. Then a familiar voice crackled through. "Bailey, this is Graves. We've got your signal. Hang tight, extraction team is inbound. As a coalition gunship appeared on the horizon, Bailey looked out at the dying world. The Nausicaan homeworld was lost. But at what cost? And with Volkar still out there, the war was just getting started. The gunship hovered near the spire, its bay doors opening. As they climbed aboard, Bailey knew that the true test of the coalition's purpose was just beginning. The gunship's engines roared as it lifted off from the crumbling spire, narrowly avoiding a massive slab of concrete that crashed down where they had stood moments before. Bailey gripped a handhold, his eyes fixed on the apocalyptic landscape below. "Commander," Admiral Graves' voice crackled through the comm. "We need to talk. Now." Bailey made his way to the cockpit, where a holographic image of Graves flickered to life. The Admiral's face was grim. "Sir, what's our next move?" Bailey asked. Graves' lips pursed. "We're considering deploying Armageddon-class weapons to neutralize the remaining Nausicaan forces." Bailey's eyes widened. "Sir, with all due respect, that's madness. The environmental devastation would be irreversible, I know," Graves cut him off. "But we can't let Volkar escape. The Zalarians are pushing for this. If we don't act, we risk fracturing the coalition." Bailey's mind raced. There had to be another way. "Give me a team," he said. "I'll go after Volkar myself." Graves raised an eyebrow. "You're proposing a capture mission? In the middle of all this?" "It's our best shot," Bailey insisted. "Let me put together a strike team. We'll infiltrate Volkar's command bunker and take him out." After a moment of tense silence, Graves nodded. "You have 6 hours, Commander. Make them count." The gunship touched down at a forward operating base. Bailey wasted no time assembling his team. Lieutenant Hawkins was the first to volunteer, followed by the Zalarian commando Rolvac, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming in the harsh light. "We go in fast and quiet," Bailey briefed them. "Intel suggests Volkar's hold up in a mobile command bunker beneath the city. We'll use the tunnel network to get close." They geared up and boarded a stealth shuttle, skimming low over the fractured landscape. Massive fissures belched smoke and ash into the air, obscuring their approach to the ruins of the Nausicaan capital. The shuttle set down in a secluded courtyard. Bailey led his team to a maintenance hatch, which Hawkins quickly bypassed. They descended into darkness, activating low-light visors. The tunnels were a maze of twisted metal and fallen debris. Distant explosions sent tremors through the walls, showering them with dust. They moved swiftly, guided by Rolvac's keen senses and Bailey's tactical instincts. After what felt like hours of creeping through the labyrinth, they emerged into a vast cavern. At its center stood a towering structure, Volkar's mobile command bunker. "There," Bailey whispered, pointing to a heavily guarded entrance. "That's our way in." They were about to move when a deafening roar filled the cavern. The ground shook violently, and massive chunks of rock began to rain down from above. "Antimatter charges!" Hawkins yelled. "The whole place is coming down!" Bailey's team scrambled for cover as the cavern collapsed around them. Darkness engulfed them, and for a moment Bailey thought it was over. Then a faint light flickered in the distance. They clawed their way through the rubble, emerging into an even larger chamber. Bailey's breath caught in his throat as he took in the sight before him. A colossal throne room stretched out before them, dominated by a raised dais. Behind it loomed a terrifying superweapon platform, its multiple barrels aimed skyward. And there, standing at the controls, was Supreme Commander Volkar himself. The Nausicaan leader's eyes locked onto Bailey. With a snarl, he activated a device on his wrist. Energy crackled around him as he leapt from the platform, landing with inhuman grace. "Now!" Bailey shouted. Hawkins and Rolvac surged forward, engaging Volkar's guards in a fierce firefight. Bailey sprinted towards Volkar, dodging energy blasts and leaping over debris. The two commanders clashed in a brutal hand-to-hand struggle. Volkar's augmented strength gave him an edge, and Bailey found himself on the defensive. A vicious backhand sent him sprawling across the floor. Volkar stalked towards him, activating a captured human energy blade. "Your coalition ends here, human," he growled. As the Nausicaan raised the blade for a killing blow, a blur of motion intercepted him. Rolvac, bleeding from multiple wounds, tackled Volkar with the last of his strength. "Now, Commander," the Zalarian gasped. Bailey didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, wresting the energy blade from Volkar's grasp. With a swift, decisive strike, he incapacitated the Nausicaan leader. Hawkins secured Volkar as Bailey raced to the superweapon controls. With a few deft keystrokes, he redirected its firepower towards the remaining Nausicaan strongholds on the surface. The cavern shook as the weapon discharged, and cheers erupted over the comm as coalition forces reported Nausicaan positions crumbling across the planet. As the dust settled, Bailey knelt beside the fallen Rolvac. The Zalarian's eyes were dimming, but a smile played across his alien features. "We did it," Rolvac whispered. "It was an honor, Commander." Bailey clasped his comrade's hand as Rolvac's life slipped away. There was no time to mourn. Not yet. He turned to Hawkins, who was sifting through data terminals. "Sir," Hawkins called out, his voice urgent. "You need to see this." Bailey joined him, scanning the intel on the screen. His blood ran cold as he read about the Arculon contingency, the Nausicaans' plan to retreat to an impregnable base in the galactic core. "We need to inform Admiral Graves," Bailey said grimly. "This war isn't over yet." Bailey's grip tightened on the data terminal as he absorbed the implications of the Arculon contingency. He turned to Hawkins, his face grim. "We need to get this to Admiral Graves immediately." As if on cue, Graves's hologram flickered to life beside them. The Admiral's eyes widened as he scanned the intel. "This changes everything," he muttered. "Sir," Bailey began, "we can't let the Nausicaans regroup. We need to strike now, while they're vulnerable." Graves nodded, then his expression hardened. "Commander, what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. We're initiating Operation Tartarus." Over the next hour, Graves outlined a daring plan. The coalition would appear to fracture, with public condemnations and mock defections, creating the illusion of bitter infighting. Meanwhile, Bailey would assemble a covert strike force from their most trusted alien allies. "Your team will infiltrate the Arculon Trench by exploiting the Nausicans' own evacuation protocols," Graves explained. "We've intercepted communications about a rendezvous for Volkar's lieutenants. That's your window." Bailey's mind raced, piecing together the logistics. "We'll need to doctor their orders, insert our people into the extraction operation." "Exactly," Graves confirmed. "The Nausicans will be so focused on their own escape, they'll usher you right into their sanctuary." Over the next weeks, the deception unfolded. News broadcasts across the galaxy reported on the coalition's collapse. Human diplomats stormed out of alien embassies. Zalarian warships engaged in mock battles with Mazarian cruisers. Behind the scenes, Bailey worked tirelessly. He met with Princess Zara in a shadowy cantina on a neutral world, securing the aid of her elite Mazarian warriors. Rolvac's successor pledged the support of the Zalarian commandos, honoring their fallen comrade's sacrifice. As the day of insertion approached, Bailey briefed his strike team aboard a nondescript freighter. Holographic displays showed the treacherous geography of the Arculon Trench. "Our primary objectives are to disable their defenses and clear corridors for the main assault," Bailey explained. "Lieutenant Hawkins will lead a team to liberate Volkar. We'll need his inside knowledge to reach the control nexus." Zara's eyes narrowed. "Can we trust him?" Bailey's lips pursed. "We don't have a choice, but we'll be watching him every step of the way." The infiltration began flawlessly. Disguised as Nausicaan support vessels, Bailey's ships slipped into the massive evacuation armada. Tense hours passed as they navigated the trench's swirling energies, surrounded by the very enemy they sought to destroy. Finally, they docked at a sprawling space station carved into an asteroid. Bailey led the first wave, his team moving swiftly through maintenance tunnels and service corridors. The station shuddered as Nausicaan warships continued to arrive, disgorging panicked officers and bureaucrats. In a brilliantly executed series of strikes, Bailey's forces systematically disabled defense grids and communication relays. Hawkins's team successfully extracted Volkar, the Nausicaan leader's snarling threats, even as he was forced to guide them deeper into the complex. They were nearing the supposed location of the command center when Zara suddenly grabbed Bailey's arm. Her eyes were wide with alarm. "Wait," she hissed. "Something's wrong. The energy signatures, this isn't the real Nexus. Bailey whirled on Volkar, who sneered defiantly. Observant little princess, the Nausicaan growled. But it's too late. You've wandered into a trap. Alarms blared throughout the station. Bailey's comm crackled with reports of Nausicaan counterattacks across multiple sectors. He grabbed Volkar by the throat, slamming him against a bulkhead. "Where's the real command center?" he demanded. Volkar laughed, a harsh grating sound. "You'll never reach it in time. Even now, my loyal guards are initiating the self-destruct sequence. This entire redoubt will become your tomb." Bailey released Volkar, his mind racing. He turned to Zara. "Can you track the true energy signature?" The Mazarian princess nodded, her fingers dancing across a handheld scanner. "This way," she said, pointing down a darkened corridor. "Move out," Bailey ordered. The strike team sprinted through twisting passageways, battling pockets of Nausicaan resistance. They could feel the station beginning to shake as systems overloaded. They burst into a vast chamber dominated by swirling holograms and pulsing energy conduits. Nausicaan bodyguards swarmed towards them, weapons blazing. Bailey's team fought with desperate intensity, knowing the future of the cosmos hung in the balance. Volkar broke free in the chaos, racing towards a central control pedestal. Bailey pursued, dodging energy blasts and leaping over fallen combatants. He tackled the Nausicaan leader just as Volkar's clawed hand reached for a glowing panel. They grappled on the edge of a yawning chasm, a swirling vortex of cosmic energies below. Volkar sneered, his fingers inching towards a final failsafe. "If I can't have victory," he snarled, "I'll ensure your defeat." Bailey made a split-second decision. With a powerful heave, he sent Volkar tumbling into the abyss. The Nausicaan's scream was cut short as he vanished into the swirling maelstrom. Hawkins called out from the control center. "Commander, I've got control of the main systems, but Volkar triggered some kind of alert. The entire Nausicaan armada is converging on our position." Bailey strode to the communications array, linking directly to Admiral Graves. "Sir," he reported, "we've secured the objective, requesting immediate support." Graves's voice crackled through, tinged with static but filled with willpower. "Understood, Commander. All ships, this is Admiral Graves. The Arculon Trench is breached. All units converge on Bailey's position. Today, we end this war." Through the station's viewports, Bailey watched as the first wave of coalition ships dropped out of hyperspace. Thousands of vessels, representing every race and world that had suffered under Nausicaan oppression, formed up for the final battle. As the Nausicaan armada approached, weapons charging, Bailey turned to his team. "Hold this position," he ordered. "Despite the toll, we can't let them retake the command center." The station shuddered as the first salvos were exchanged. Bailey gripped his weapon, knowing that the next few hours would determine the future of the cosmos. The final battle for the Arculon Trench had begun. The station rocked violently as another volley from the Nausicaan armada slammed into its shields. Bailey steadied himself against a control panel, his eyes scanning the holographic displays for any sign of the coalition fleet. "Commander," Hawkins called out, "I've got multiple hyperspace signatures incoming." A moment later, the viewport erupted with light as thousands of ships dropped out of hyperspace. The coalition armada had arrived, led by Admiral Graves's imposing flagship. "All units, engage the enemy." Graves's voice crackled over the comms. "Bailey, what's your status?" "We've secured the command center, Admiral," Bailey reported, "but we're having trouble accessing their defense systems. The Nausicaans have—" His words were cut short as alarms blared throughout the station. Red warning lights flashed across every console. "Proximity wipe-burn protocol detected," Zara shouted, her fingers flying across a nearby terminal. "They're purging their own networks." Bailey's mind raced. "We need to get targeting data to the fleet before it's all gone. Hawkins, options." The lieutenant's face was grim as he assessed the situation. "There's only one way, sir. We need a direct neural uplink to the Admiral's ship." "But that would mean—" Hawkins nodded. "I know. My cybernetics can handle it. Once." Before Bailey could protest, Hawkins was already moving. He ripped open a panel, exposing a tangle of cables and circuitry. With practiced efficiency, he connected a series of wires to the ports along his spine. "Transmitting now!" Hawkins gritted his teeth as his body convulsed. Arcs of energy crackled around him as the massive data transfer began. Outside, the battle reached a fever pitch. The coalition ships, guided by the precious targeting data, unleashed a devastating barrage. The Arculon Trench's own defense systems turned against the Nausicaan fleet, plasma lances carving through their ships like paper. But even as victory seemed within reach, a new horror unfolded. Antimatter explosions blossomed throughout the Nausicaan ranks. Artificial singularities tore open the fabric of space itself. "They're activating some kind of doomsday protocol," Zara shouted over the din. "The whole trench is destabilizing." Bailey watched in horror as coalition ships were battered by impossible forces. Spatial distortions warped and shattered entire squadrons. The trench itself seemed to be collapsing, reality fraying at its edges. "We need to evacuate now," Bailey ordered. He turned to Hawkins, who lay motionless on the floor, his cybernetics burned out from the data transfer. With a heavy heart, Bailey hefted his fallen comrade over his shoulder. They raced through twisting corridors as the station broke apart around them. Reaching the hangar bay, they piled into the last remaining shuttle. Bailey took the controls, his hands steady despite the chaos. "Our exit vector is completely scrambled," he growled, wrestling with the controls. "There's no way to plot a safe course through this mess." Zara's eyes narrowed in dedication. "Get to the shuttle," she said quietly. "I can calibrate the nav systems from here. I'll guide you out." "Zara, no!" Bailey protested. "There has to be another way." The Mazarian princess shook her head. "There isn't time. Go now." With a final, anguished look, Bailey sealed the shuttle hatch. The small craft rocketed out of the hangar, immediately buffeted by the cosmic maelstrom. Zara's voice crackled over the comms, guiding them through a gauntlet of spatial anomalies. As they neared the edge of the trench, alarms blared. A massive singularity was forming, threatening to consume not just the battle zone, but potentially the entire galaxy. "Bailey," Zara's voice was calm, almost serene. "I'm going to trigger a resonance pulse. It's the only way to contain this." "What? No, we can find another solution." "There isn't time," she said gently. "Please, respect my decision. This is how I can make things right." Before Bailey could respond, a blinding flash erupted behind them. The shuttle cleared the event horizon just as the Arculon Trench imploded, collapsing into a quiescent void. Zara's final words echoed in Bailey's mind as Admiral Graves' flagship loomed before them. The trench was sealed, the Nausicans defeated, but the cost had been unimaginable. As the shuttle bay doors opened to receive them, Bailey knew the real work was just beginning. Humanity would have to step up to become the guardians this battered galaxy so desperately needed. He squared his shoulders, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The war was over, but a new era of vigilance had only just...
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.